Today we have a 1995 Toyota Celica GT convertible with a 2.2 liter 4-cylinder and a 5-speed manual transmission. We're going to be doing a clutch. So the transmission is down in this area. So what we're going to have to do first is take the airbox out, the battery out, the starter out, which is behind here. This is part of the cruise control. Get that up out of the way. Disconnect the linkages back here. And then we'll go underneath the car and start working on some of the stuff underneath the car. So now we got some of the stuff out of the way. We got the battery out. This is the plastic battery tray. Air filter, air cleaner top, air cleaner bottom. And then once we got the battery out, you take these 3 screws out and unplug the cruise control and you just throw that out of the way. So now we have to get in here, get the starter out. As you see, there's a mount for the transmission here. The linkages are down in here we have to get to. This one has a mount on the transmission on the side, which also supports the motor. So this one's going to be kind of a pain in the butt. Here's the hydraulic slave cylinder. And usually what I do with these is I unbolt this and let it hang up out of the way. I'm going to be changing this anyway, but I want to get it out of the way for now. So, all right, there's the beginning, so let's keep working at it. Got the starter out, got the slave cylinder up and out of the way. I've got some of the bolts out of the out of the transmission, and we're gonna start working on the linkages back there. All righty, I got the linkages disconnected and up and out. Way back in there, there is a Speedo wire connector that you got to unplug. So unplug that and don't forget about it. So here is a little helpful hint on stuff. So here is the motor, not the motor mount, the trans mount for here. I also took that out, okay? So this piece mounts to the transmission, and then that mount mounts to this mount. So what I usually try to do is try to keep all the bolts in their proper places so I know where they go. Just like here's the starter, those are the 2 starter bolts. This is another motor mount bolt, which this bolt here goes down into that motor mount. So I'll try to remember that. But then what I also like to do is the Sharpie is always great to have. So as you see, I'll put the bolts in a magnetic tray, and I wrote down clutch slave, so I know those are all for the clutch slave. And then all these bolts here are the trans bolts near starter. Then also what I do, I get my little sticky notes out. Remember Speedo wire, because the problem with the Speedo wire, it is buried way underneath there and you can't get to it. So it's always good to take notes. Actually, since everybody has a camera phone, take pictures. Since I'm videoing it, I can always go back and look at the video later. Oh, I also had to pull out the engine support to crank the engine up to get this mount, the bolt out of the mount, and then I had to lower it down to get the mount out and the other piece out. So all that's taken care of. So I think I have everything up top taken care of. So now I went ahead and took the wheels off, and we're gonna have to pull the axles out. So let me put it up in the air and we'll show you what it looks like from underneath. All right, now that I got it back up in the air, there's a big plastic shield that fits here that wraps around, which is right there. It has a bunch of 6mm bolts with 10mm socket heads. And then there's another shield over there that goes on this side. And as you can see, the CV boots are blown on both axles and have sprayed grease all everywhere. So now everything is a nasty mess. So to get the axles out of this car, you can do it 1 or 2 ways. The way I like to do it is, of course, you have to come over here, take the Carter key out, take the cage out, and then take the nut out. Take the nut off. Smack that with a hammer so it's loose, all right? A lot of people like taking these bolts off the struts and then rocking the whole spindle forward. Well, the problem with that is sometimes that'll mess your alignment up. On this car has a ball joint that actually unbolts. It's got 2 nuts and a bolt. So as you see on this side over here that I already had the axle pulled out, I have just taken that loose, pried the control arm down so I can get the axle out of the car. So this one here, oh, and then I bought a new tool which really comes in handy. It's these big pickle forks. Here's the flat one, and here's the sharp one. These are really, really good for getting in here to bust the axles out. All right, so I'm gonna get the axles out. Now, this axle over here has an extra axle shaft built into it that bolts in with a bearing. I think I'm gonna have to take these, there's 2 bolts up here I have to take out. I'll probably have to take an air hammer and drive this one out after I get the axle out of the hub. Also on this one here, it's got this cross member. Gotta take this cross member down, and back here, I don't know if I'm gonna, yeah, it's got another mount here. Everything's kind of sandwiched in here. Gonna try to lift up on the motor with the engine support to get this loose and this mount out so I can get this cross member out. Trying not to take this cross member out, because if I take this cross member out, when I put it, then I'll have to mess with the rack and pinion. And then once I put this back in, the alignment could be off, and then our alignment machine is broken, so I would have to send it out to get it aligned. So I'm slowly getting it worked on, probably finish it up tomorrow, but basically what's gonna happen, I'll take the axles out, get this bracket out. There's still some bolts around the outer bell housing, and there's a couple more bolts probably up here. Get this out. Once I get that out, get the transmission back a little bit. This is the part of the transmission where the differential is. I think we can pull it back far enough to swing the transmission so the differential's down here, and then we can come right straight out with the transmission. It's going to take a lot of muscle to get this one in and out of here with this cross member in, but I don't really want to pull that cross member out. We'll see what happens tomorrow. So far that's what we got today. It's quitting time. Everybody else has left. They don't like to be on camera. So I will start on this again tomorrow. All right, so I decided not to leave yet. I was going to try to go ahead and get these axles out. Like I said, it's so much easier just to take the 3 bolts out in the ball joint to get the axle out of the hub. So real quick, the light I'm using is a Streamlight Bandit. I just got it a few weeks ago. It's got a USB rechargeable. So far, so good. So if you're looking for a light, that hooks onto your hat, it does also come with a strap, and it's pretty well adjustable to help free up your hands. It really, so far it's been a really good light. Yeah, if anybody can test a flashlight, it's me. Flashlights do not last me very long. So if you have a flashlight you want me to test, send it my way. I'll give you an honest opinion of it. But so far, this Streamlight Bandit's been pretty good. And the one I wear on my hip, this is an Easy Red, rechargeable USB. So far, this has been the best flashlight too. Bright, it works really, really well. I've had that about a year. Usually, I'll go through a flashlight every 6 months. This Easy Red I've had well over a year, so I'd highly recommend that. It doesn't, the only thing is it doesn't come with a holder to put on your belt, so I had to get one from another flashlight. The only thing I don't like is it doesn't have a sleeve. Come on. Come on out there. Set those two bolts down. Let's see if by any luck this is going to come out. Oh, it's moving. Unbelievable. A lot of times these bearings get trapped in there and you got your air hammer out and beat them to death. All right. So the axles are out. So now I got to tackle this cross member to get the rest of the bolts out around the bell housing. Maybe I will stop and finish up tomorrow. All right, I'm back at it today. We had to get this mount out. As you see how long the studs it has, these two studs come through the hole here and there's a bolt here. To get this mount out, what you have to do is you have to take the bolt out of the rack and pinion and push the rack and pinion up. Take this bolt out, and then you get enough wiggle room to get this out. You have to take all this mounting of the exhaust off also. So after you get the mount out, then you can take these two bolts out, and that cross member will slide out. So now the next thing I'm going to do is, this is that front motor mount on the transmission. I'm going to take this off to give me more room. Then I have to take this plate off here, and then I'm going to also take off that motor mount plate because it's going to get in the way. And then there's a couple bolts up in there. So after we get all these bolts out, we should be able to slide the transmission back, rotate it, and it should come out of there. So give me some time and we'll see what it happens. Got the transmission jack in, got all the bolts out, popped it. As you can see, we got it far enough back. The differential might give us a little fight coming down past this bracket, but it should come right on down. Got a piece of wood in there to get it level. We'll just take it down nice and slow and bring it forward. All right, there's the pressure plate. There's the transmission. We strapped the transmission on so I don't have to worry about being in a different position. Basically, like I said, we've got it popped back, brought it down a little bit, forward, brought it down a little bit, and then it came right on out. Excellent. Get the pressure plate off here and see what the clutch looks like. So if you noticed, when I took the bolts out of the pressure plate, the fingers didn't push in that's telling me that the clutch is definitely worn out, which I kind of figured. So you want to be careful taking this apart. You don't really want to stick your finger in there because this thing's heavy and it could cut your finger right off. So you want to kind of grab it. Go. All right. And as you see, the clutch is worn down to the rivets there. There's another rivet, but this clutch is definitely up. Yep, see right there? They're hitting metal to metal. See right there? Clutch is hitting metal to metal on the rivet, so this clutch is completely worn out. See, there's no more. See how it's supposed to have air fins to let it release? The air fins are completely gone, and it was hitting metal to metal. So this definitely needed a clutch. We'll have to clean up the flywheel. Usually we have them turned or replaced. We'll have to see how bad this one is. I'll get in here and clean it off real good and see if it needs to be replaced or not. Usually we'll take these flywheels off the car and send them out and have them resurfaced. This car only has 55,000 miles on it. And it really didn't have a lot of hot spots on it, so I took a Scotch-Brite pad on my Weezer and cleaned it off. There's no cracks. There's nowhere where the clutch didn't hit. So I think this will probably be fine without any problems. So just got to wait for the rest of the parts to get here, and we'll start putting it back together. Okay, so this is the throwout bearing inside the transmission bell housing. When you step on the clutch, you push this out, and that pushes on the clutch pressure plate. It pushes on the clutch pressure plate fingers to release the clutch. Well, this one, if you listen closely, the bearing's dry. Luckily, the clutch kit comes with a new one, so we just pop that out and put the new one in. All right, we're going to change the throwout bearing. There it is. All right. It comes with a new tube of grease, so you just want to put a little bit of grease. That's why they don't give you a lot. Lube that up. And then I like to put a little bit of grease here and here. And you push.
What kind of oil was it in the transmission or?
No, it takes gear oil. We have it.
Okay.
All right, on the new pressure plate and clutch, it says flywheel side. Some of them don't, but the way to tell is see how that end is sticking, see how this end is sticking out? That goes inside the pressure plate. So we're gonna put this up, put the bolts in, torque the bolts down to 19 Newton meters, and that'll be Okay, and also the new clutch kit comes with a lineup tool. So you have to make sure that this is kind of in the center, which I always do. And now we're going to torque these bolts to 19 Newton meters. And you also want to draw this in slowly, kind of like you're torquing a wheel back on, because these fingers will move around. So let's get these things tight, at least touching the pressure plate. Let's touch the pressure plate now. Down, touching the pressure plate now. All right, so let's start here. Do a little bit, you really can't see it, but these fingers are beginning to press in. I don't know if you can see it. So you just want to go real slow all the way around so you don't stress the new pressure plate. Yep. So as you can see, these have gotten flatter now as I've gone around real slow and made the bolts contact all the way around. So now I'm going to go ahead and torque it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm going to go back around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All torque. This thing slides in and out all the way nice and good, so we know that when we shoot the transmission back up and slide it in, that should slide in.
That was $13 for a 9-wheel.
All right, I got the transmission back up in there. So I think you all get a gist of how you do it. Put this mount back in, you reassemble that back mount. You got to lift the rack and pinion up to get that mount in and out. You put the mount back in, you bolt the rack back up. You slide across member in, you get this lined up, use a jiggle jack to twist the engine transmission around, you put all the bell housing bolts back in, bolt this up. So now basically it's a reverse of everything. Starter in, hook up the shifter linkages, put fluid in it, put the axles back in, and then you put your clutch slave cylinder back in, all your other parts which are already right there. Pretty straightforward, they bolt in. So that's the overview of how to do the clutch on a 95 Toyota Celica 2.2.